4 o'clock. Welcome to our February 25th meeting of council. On behalf of Mayor Greg Davidson, who is ill today, you get to deal with this smiling face for an hour or so. So why don't we rise, if you're able, for O Canada, please. All right, we also have regrets from Councillor Reid this afternoon. So any declaration of pecuniary interest? Is that no? Confirmation of minutes, moved by Councillor Otten, seconded by Councillor Woodham, that the minutes of the Township of Mapleton Council meeting held on February 11th, 2025 be confirmed as circulated in the agenda. Questions or comments on that? All those in favor? What do you want, just a check mark or a signature or what?
Just check's fine. Just sign it later.
Next, we move to matters under the Planning Act. We have a motion moved by Councillor Woodham, seconded by Otten, so I think we'll just do this all afternoon. That the Township of Mapleton Council receive for information the Planner's Report, ZBA 2024-18, Frank, 7090 Jones Baseline Road, dated February 25th. That the Council consider for discussion and adoption the accompanying draft bylaw with a view to any modifications or amendment they consider appropriate. So, Ms. Redmond, is this you?
I'm here to answer any questions or for clarification that council may require.
So, you've seen the draft bylaw attached here as well. Comments, Councillor Woodham?
Thank you, through you, Pro Tem Martin. I do have a couple questions for our planning staff, probably directly to our planner, Linda Redmond. Just some clarification, if you could let me know if the property and the proposed business would fit in the definition of either on-farm diversified or agritourism? And then we'll do that question first.
Through you, Councillor Martin, it would not fit under the definition of on-farm diversified because it's not a farm for the purposes of our zoning bylaw. We to be considered a farm, you must be greater than 25 acres. So the zoning bylaw would allow a home industry, which is the equivalent of an on-farm diversified use, on a parcel of land that is greater than 25 acres. So from that perspective, I would say it doesn't meet the definition of a home, of an on-farm diversified use. However, I don't know that I would consider this an on-farm diversified use regardless, because it's more of, I would say it falls under the agritourism. Now, agritourism, as I had said, I believe at the last meeting, there's no clear definition of that and the farm suites. So I think there's elements of it that definitely fit within the agritourism use, or what I would consider to be agritourism. It's located in an agricultural area, it's surrounded by farms. You know, we don't just look at the actual property when we're looking at designations of land, we look at an area and what does the area represent. So this is located in a area that is primarily farming activity. So I would say it fits within some elements of the agritourism, maybe not all, but some.
Sorry, may I ask my second question then? So just for clarification, I guess, for me, under our provincial planning statement, it's our guide that we use then for things that are brought to council. And if, I think it's under section 4.3.2.5, that states that you can have up to 2 additional residential units shall be permitted, and it's my understanding whenever I hear the word shall, it's a good thing. That's what is allowed. But then it goes on and states where the 2 additional residential units are proposed, at least one of these additional residential units is located within attached or to the principal dwelling. So if it's my understanding there currently already is one tiny home, if we're looking to expand this to 5, we're way outside of that scope, are we not?
Well, those provisions are addressing residential units. So the PPS, as well as the zoning bylaw, allows an ARU, which is an additional residential unit. In certain circumstances, one can be detached, one has to be within the existing dwelling. That's for when we're talking about residential uses. So where people live, what we're talking about here is a short-term accommodation, which is a different matter. It's the same, for residential occupancy, but it's not for long-term or not intended for long-term. It's intended as accommodations, short-term accommodations for people who are utilizing the facilities on site. So that policy doesn't apply in this case because that's not really what they're asking to have. This application is not to allow 5 tiny homes on a property. It's to allow a retreat center that offers accommodation as part of the service, short-term accommodation. So the bylaw is written to reflect that use. So that policy isn't applicable here. However, if they wanted to have 2 units on that property, the one that's there now was constructed under that policy as an ARU. It hadn't been utilized that way. It was being utilized as a short-term accommodation. So that's part of the application to reflect the current use, not unlike the one we dealt with some time ago where they had an ARU in their garage, upper level of their garage, that was being used as short-term accommodation. We reference it as an ARU because it's constructed similarly, but it's not intended for permanent or long-term accommodations. It's intended as a hotel or a motel or that kind of scenario. So that section would only apply if that's what they were going to be using it for, and then it would be allowed as of right. Yes, 2 units, one off one separate, one within.
I might have another one after.
Okay, Councillor Ottens?
Yes, through you, Mayor Pro Tem. I guess it's more commentary than anything else. I guess this is the sort of business that we don't come across a lot, so it's hard to define it, right? The concept, you cannot do this in town in an industrial or commercial area because the whole point of it is to be out in the country to like a spa or a country retreat. So I guess I'm kind of thinking of this, it's almost like a campground, right? Where you're temporarily staying, seems like it would be the same thing. Are there specific zoning for something like that would apply to this case? Because that would be the same idea, right? You would stay temporarily and then you kind of participate in whatever's offered and then you leave again. My main concerns with this are what happens if the business isn't a success. It really puts a lot of onus on you to succeed, and you put a lot of investment into this. Do you then turn around and now you would just want to rent this out? Does it inexplicably become Airbnbs just to make profit? So I guess that's where I would put some guidance within our bylaw here, but I guess is there something that from a campground perspective that would apply to this?
Thank you. Well, I think they are different. Campground is probably, would take up more space, and, it's seasonal. There are differences for sure. The policy, the county official plan, as well as the provincial policy, does have provisions that speak to agritourism, and examples of that include farm vacation suites. So it doesn't say a campground, and it also speaks to retreats. So those are examples they give of what could be considered under the agritourism umbrella. They don't elaborate on what that means. They don't have definitions for it, but they use that terminology. The county official plan talks about farm businesses that are to be small scale and includes farm vacation enterprises. So again, not campgrounds, but people that would go to a farm as a vacation to experience farming or the farming community or that environment. So that's where I would say it differentiates between a campground.
Clear as mud? And just for clarity, let's not do the pro tem thing. It's too confusing. Let's just do councillor and keep it easy. Councillor Woodham.
Okay, thank you, through Councillor Martin. So I appreciate the draft bylaw that's before us, and it's putting on subject to the following conditions. I guess I'm just struggling with if we go outside, what's permitted, put on these conditions, how do we ever enforce it? How do we ever, we have no teeth then. So all of a sudden now we've opened ourselves up that, we find out that there's weddings, there's large gatherings, that yes, you can look it up on Airbnb and there's rental accommodations. So what happens then?
Through you, Councillor Martin. So sometimes when there's conditions attached to a bylaw, that I've done anyways, sometimes I'm stating conditions that are a given, that are expected anyways. So the reason I added the large gatherings are not permitted, it was to just make it clear to the landowner as well as the neighbors that came out and had concerns about that happening, to make it clear that this is not a permitted use. It's not permitted anyways, even if it wasn't included in that condition in the bylaw, but I just wanted to make it crystal clear that the intent is that this is not to be used for large gatherings and what have you. Our teeth in this is that it isn't a permitted use, and should it occur, then it would be the same would be applied as anything else in the township when there's a use going on that is not permitted and a complaint is lodged, and bylaw enforcement will deal with it. I can also say that usually when it comes to outdoor events that require a tent, they do oftentimes get a permit, a building permit, and at that point in time, it would also be turned down. Like a permit would not be permitted, and they would be advised that it's not a permitted use. So there's our teeth, and that's all we've got for any property we have in Mapleton, essentially.
I know the applicant's here, so she can probably tell that we've been struggling with enforcement over the last number of years. And, you know, I think we've talked about this before, how when applications come in, you know, it's the aftermath that gets really difficult to deal with. So any other questions at all from Ottens, Woodham on this? I got a couple quick ones. One is hypothetical, and the other one is, I guess, a direct. The first one's for Michelle Brown. I know you're contemplating bringing back to council a report on like the short-term accommodation stuff. Hypothetically, do you have an idea of, is that something that might happen in this quarter, the second quarter? Do you have an idea when you might have a proposal around that?
Thank you, Councillor Martin. Yes, actually, we were making rearrangements because we had to postpone. So the short-term rental accommodation will actually take place here. It's not gone out public yet, but we are working on the social media notice, and I just got the template so I can put it in the paper. So it will happen after we have our final committee of adjustment meeting in March, which happens on the 19th.
Thank you. I didn't know that. The second question is for Planner Redmond. One of the conditions you talk about in the draft bylaw is septic systems and access to water. Do we know how the applicant plans on addressing those? I don't know how tiny homes, a collection of them, all deal with water and wastewater, but is there a plan in place for that?
The last time I spoke with building about it, my understanding is that they're proposing one large septic bed for the 5 units, or the four units. The applicant might be able to address that further and clarify it, but that's my understanding, as well as the retreat building. They'll be on one big septic.
Okay, I think the planning department is looking for some direction on this, and they proposed a draft bylaw to this effect. Do we vote on this initial motion first, Mr. Clerk?
I'd say,
Or do you talk about a
I'd say
decision first?
we can vote on this. It's just to receive, really. But we should get a firm answer on this.
All right, council, why don't we tackle the first motion, essentially just receiving this report. Actually, no, I like the other idea better. Let's make a decision on which way we want to move first. And we'll go back to, so we have this zoning amendment application before us and the draft bylaw. Does anyone have a motion on how they would like to address this? Okay, let me help. There's 4 options here for your consideration. The first one's a refusal, the second one's a deferral, the third one's approve as modified, and the fourth one is just an approval. So if there's options there to approve, modify it, then approve it.
I like the way it's laid out here with the following conditions, so that would be approval then, because we're not adding anything extra, right? It's already, the modifications are already laid out for us. So I'm fine with these, and, you know, as far as maintaining that, I think the neighbors would be quite vigilant about keeping that as it is. So I would make the motion that we approve what's here.
Do we have a seconder?
So in order to get it on the floor, yes, I will second that.
Okay. All right, so I'll read it. Township of Mapleton Council, having considered zoning amendment application ZBA 2024-18, resolves to make the following decision, and that would be an approval as written. Any other comments, questions? All in favor of the proposed resolution? All right, and that's carried.
Could we do this one too? Or do we just do it like that?
Oh, this one. Sorry. All right, back to the initial resolution then, that council received for information this report dated February 25th, and the council consider for adoption and discussion this bylaw with any modifications or amendments. So all those in favor of receiving the report? Okay, that's carried. All right, moving on, delegations. Yes, delegations. Moved by Councillor Otten, seconded by Councillor Woodham, that the Township of Mapleton Council receive for information the delegation of Karen Chisholm, the County of Wellington Climate Change and Sustainability Manager concerning Home Energy Efficiency Transition Program. Please.
Okay, thank you very much. Good? Okay. Thanks very much. It's wonderful to be here. It's been a little while since I've been in these chambers, so it's good to be back. Today I wanted to present to you information on our Home Energy Efficiency Transition Program. This development of this program has been going on for a couple of years now. We first completed a feasibility study and most recently completed a program design, and that was supported by County Council in November of last year. The Home Energy Efficiency Transition Program is really a financing program to help support homeowners who want to do home energy efficiency retrofits in their homes, but maybe need some financing to make that possible. I'll get you to get to the next slide. So the purpose, as I said, is to accelerate the adoption of low emission and energy conservation home retrofits. So we're looking at improving building envelopes and increasing the uptake of heat pumps, but there's a number of other things under that umbrella, eligible measures under the program to help reduce energy usage and greenhouse gas emissions. And we're also looking to address energy poverty. Currently in the county, energy poverty sits at about 25%. You'll see there on the right is a heat pump that I installed in my home last year. Last year was so mild we didn't get to really use it, but this winter has been fabulous for really testing the heat pump's ability. We've been very satisfied with that unit and its performance. Next slide, please. So when we were developing the home energy efficiency transition program, I'll just call it HEAT, going forward, it's a little bit easier. We really wanted it to be a multi-solve solution. As with most climate change actions, we want to take a good landscape view and see how we can solve other challenges along the way. And so this slide just identifies some of the county programs that this program, the HEAT program, can support and complement. So I'll just pick out a couple. The county administers the LEAP program, which is financial support for energy bills for those that are challenged with paying them. So by doing energy efficiency work in their home, we can reduce the cost of energy. As well as the Ontario Renovates program that is administered on behalf of the province. This is a program that helps those who are in desperate need of some building renewal and repair. They may have had a furnace go out, so it's more of an emergency fund. So we can complement that program by kind of getting ahead of some of those repairs that need to be done through the HEAT program. I'll just pick out a couple of more. We were just talking about affordable additional units. So the HEAT program may be able to be applied to additional units depending on how those are designed in the dwelling. We can add some energy efficiency measures through that design as well. And of course, our emergency management and emergency services, building up our stock resiliency to climate change events, extreme events. So we have, and we'll get into a little bit later, we have measures in the program that can help deal with water management, backflow valves, and hurricane straps for your roof. If you're going to be doing some insulation in your roof, you may as well get up there and put some hurricane straps in at the same time. So it'll build some resiliency in the building stock. As well as improve living conditions under extreme events such as heat waves and power loss, particularly for our seniors. Heat waves are of definite concern. Many seniors don't have air conditioning, so if we can replace their furnace with a heat pump, they get heat and air conditioning. Next slide, please. We also looked at HEAT in the pathway for change management, and there's a number of tools and programs the county has been developing to support our residents as they move through and learn about home energy efficiency. We launched our Energy Coach last year that supports low-income families to get access to provincial programs. We have a home energy toolkit that's been circulating in our libraries for the last 2 years. And then comes the HEAT program, so really giving the tools to residents to understand their energy use, but also how we can conserve energy use, conserve our energy, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, better understand building science. So, you know, a lot of folks do DIY work. When it comes to your building, you really need to be cautious about that. So we have a concierge service that we're proposing through this program that would help guide and educate applicants through that process. And of course, as I mentioned, HEAT is a financing program. So we'll have loans and grants to help homeowners achieve their goals for energy efficiency. Another part of this program is a Pathway to Net Zero plan. So the concierge service can set the applicants up for a pathway. They don't have to do everything at once, but they can follow this pathway to optimize their energy efficiency work. Next slide, please. So the HEAT program features, first, of course, the financing and incentives. The financing is going to operate through a local improvement charge, and that's where our member municipalities come in because you folks administer that local improvement charge. And the benefit for doing that is that the repayment is through the tax system, which is convenient for borrowers, as well as the loan is then attached to the property and not the person. So if someone should decide to move, that loan can stay with the property. So it gives a lot of flexibility. It's a finance vehicle that's not on it's not available except through the municipalities. So it's something new in the market that has had a lot of interest and uptake in other areas. Incentives, we're looking at incentives for low-income households. to help them reduce their energy costs. The concierge service, like I said, this is kind of a one window to everything. They would coordinate applications, they would educate on building science, they would also educate contractors and energy advisors. So they are the one window approach and can open doors to the program. The concierge service would also operate a centralized web platform. I know sometimes accessing the web is challenging in the county, so we will have other avenues, but most of the work and the intake of applications and coordination of the work would go through a centralized web platform, as well as education tools and things like that. As I mentioned, a climate-ready pathway plan for homeowners so that they can follow a pathway. They don't have to get everything done all at once, but they have sort of a projection of what the work may entail. And promotion of low-carbon resiliency. So I previously mentioned that we are looking to build resiliency in the building stock to protect against and mitigate against climate and extreme events. So this would be something special for our program. Other jurisdictions don't have a low-carbon resilient measures in their program, but we think that this is important to incorporate while folks are doing their greenhouse gas and energy emission reduction work. Next slide, please. So the loan terms, as I mentioned, LIC financing is attached to the property, not the homeowner. It's repaid through the property tax bill. There are supportive features like flexible underwriting and up to 50% of the amount upfront, and as well as available incentives. The financing amount, so the minimum is amount to borrow is $10,000, and we want to do that first to encourage folks to do more than one measure through the loan, but also because of the administration of the loan. We want to make sure that those loans are of good value and meaningful to kind of balance out the cost of the administration piece. And the maximum would be $80,000 or 10% of the property value, whichever is less. And so this allows for folks to do more than one project on their home, and that max would be determined based on the life cycle of the measures that they're implementing. So if it's doors and windows, that would have a certain life cycle. If it's, I put solar on and it's got a 25-year life cycle. So we can see what is appropriate for those measures. And on from that is the attractive repayment. So the possibility of up to 10 years or more term for repayment, and again, that's based on life cycle, and the penalty-free early repayment. Next slide. So we did a number of consultations with municipal finance staff through the development of the feasibility study and the program design, and that's just outlined here. Through the feasibility feasibility study, we wanted to get an idea from municipal finance staff what some of the processes are, and what some of the challenges may be to determine if an LIC is even feasible. And from that, we determined that there may be limited capacity through the finance teams to administer the LIC. However, most municipalities had existing LICs or were familiar with that process, which was a positive. And through the program design, we again met with member municipality finance staff to get into more of the details of what the processes are. So these were very specific processes, things like the county invoices for the tax remittance, and really getting into specifics to understand how this would work and what the coordination would be. We also talked about compensation for member municipalities for the work, recognizing that there is some limited capacity. Next slide, please. So there are multiple stakeholders in this journey. Of course, the county and the member municipalities, the administrator, and the homeowner. So this journey starts with a discovery, and this is really the marketing and awareness building phase. and then leading on to an application. So if those folks who are interested from the marketing would go on to the application and contact that administrator to help fill out that application and learn more about the program. Then they would start undertaking those improvements to their home. The administrator will be there to help decipher some of the information they receive, the homeowner receives in their quotes, explain that building science piece, and really just hold their hand through the process. Having gone through this process myself and having access to numerous people in the industry, I still was challenged with understanding some of that. So the value of that concierge and administrator service really kind of hit home for me during that process. So that third piece is quite involved. It's quite lengthy to get the contractor quotes and actually implement those improvements. Through that phase, you'll also have a property owner agreement signed between the municipality and the homeowner. The next piece is financing. So with project completion, we would record the LIC and schedule those repayments through the tax system. And then the last phase is re-entry. We've included a re-entry in the program, and this is because there may be additional funding available. Homeowners may get additional funding available to them, and we want them to continue on that pathway. So if we want to leave it open that they can jump back into the program if it's appropriate for them. Next slide, please. For member municipalities, this slide is of particular interest, roles and responsibilities. So verifying participant property tax bill history, that's going to help us gauge whether the applicant is appropriate to receive a loan and they won't be coming into financial challenges by receiving the loan. Of course, we would be looking to the member municipalities to approve and sign the property owners' agreements, recording the LIC on the benefiting properties. Each LIC would require a bylaw council resolution, so we would look to the member municipalities to facilitate that. Of course, overseeing billing and collection through your finance teams. Preparing budget and status updates for the county. The county and the member municipalities will be tracking the loans and repayments, so we want to make sure that we all are understanding the numbers correctly. Managing the delinquencies and defaults, because the LIC would be sitting at the member municipalities, then the delinquency and defaults would also be a responsibility of the member municipalities. And that last point there is we have a loan loss reserve that will sit at the county. So if there are any defaults, the member municipality would be able to apply to access that loan loss reserve. Next slide. The budget, so I put the budget up there just for your information. It's a big project. It's over 4 years. The council has committed to up to $2.7 million to the program over those 4 years. But I'm sorry, down in that left on the bottom, I have Center Wellington highlighted there. However, Mapleton is there as well, and that gives you an idea of how many applications you can expect per year, and that's based on modeling. So the high would be 13, the medium is about 7 per year. And that gives you an idea of what the demand would be for your teams. The next slide. So finally, the next steps, we're working on the FCM application right now. I expect that to be in the next 2 weeks, and that would be for the loan and grant portions of the program. We'll be following up with an RFP for third-party administrator, that concierge service, and we'll start drafting templates for LIC bylaw for the municipalities. We'd like to work with the municipalities, figure out what the process is, map that out so we're all clear on who's doing what and when, and how we're going to coordinate all of that work. We have to also negotiate compensation and an agreement with the municipalities. FCM is going to be looking for signed agreements between the county and the municipalities to do this work. And then we'll get to do some fun stuff through visioning for a marketing campaign. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much for that presentation. Any questions at all for the delegation? Well, I do. So I understand the LIC process. Is there, in the event that a property gets sold, I don't know, within a year or two of, say, dropping 80,000 into the property, is that something that gets disclosed? Like, what's the process for a disclosure that this LIC is attached to it?
The LIC will be on title, so there will be some work to put it on title, and then it would appear through a title search. Yeah.
And then the last one for me is kind of directed at our CFO, capacity as far as finance goes to administer this program. I understand there'd be agreements between the county and Mapleton on this. Would there be like an administrative fee attached to it? Is it an in-kind thing? What's our capacity issues? Are you able to address any of that?
Sure, through you, Councillor Martin. Essentially, this program runs very similar to tile drain loans, which we have a lot of experience with in this municipality. As far as capacity to take on more of these on a regular basis, obviously we don't have that built-in excess capacity to do it. As you see from the dates, I wasn't part of a lot of the conversations that led up to the establishment of the program. I would assume there's some sort of administrative component to it. Having said that, the process is almost the exact same with bringing a bylaw forward to enter into the local improvement charge, similar to a tile drain loan, and administering the loan. On tile drain loans, there are interest pieces to that the province receives through that. Obviously that'd come into the final pieces of this puzzle, but I'd let maybe you speak to if there's any admin fees.
Yeah, sure. So yes, for the applicant, there are administration fees with the loan. For the municipalities, that we will be looking at compensating for the work that you do, and whether that is administering the LIC, but it may be also registering things on title and things like that. So some of those legal fees as well can be kind of passed up to the county, and that would go through the FCM grant. So those are the things that we need to work out in fine detail.
Councillor Ottens?
Thank you, through you, Councillor Martin, to Ms. Chisholm. What's the timeline here? When do you expect to see uptake? Do you have to wait for the FCM response first, and then how long after that?
Yes, so through Councillor Martin. I would like to say early 2026, but what I'm hearing is the FCM review can take up to, and signing the agreements can take up to a year. So I think I can comfortably say mid-2026, but hesitantly say mid-2026. Yeah, it really is in the hands of that FCM review and how long it takes to get through the program. This is the last year of the program, so there's likely going to be high demand, and which will delay the review. But yeah, until we really start talking to them and negotiating with them, we won't really have a set date. But we are gearing up for next year.
Okay, thank you. If there's no further questions, thank you so much for your delegation and your time today. Do you want me to read this resolution again, or are you okay with receiving this delegation for information? Okay, all those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you so much. All right, next we have Councillor Campbell. We always enjoy when you join us with an update from the county, so thank you very much for your time today.
Well, thank you for having me. So before I get into my report, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Bosworth Bridge has been closed as of 5:30 last night. Approximately 400 square meters of asphalt on both the east and west approaches need to be removed. There's an excavator on site this afternoon. They'll be starting first thing tomorrow morning. They'll be ripping out the asphalt for that area. They'll be putting in very coarse, I believe they told me it was 2-inch drainage stone to reaffirm the base, compact it, and then they'll be repaving that area, hopefully on Friday. So the intent is to have the bridge open by the weekend or midway through the weekend, depending on how the weather cooperates and the paving goes. So some paving guys didn't get their full winter off. They've been called in to do some work this week, so. Anyways, in the interest of safety, it was closed because of a significant failure in the asphalt on both approaches, so. And of course, it'll be closed again in the spring when they redo it all again. But anyways, I'll get into that as part of my report, so. But I thought I should address that because it's current news. Anyway, so thanks for having me. County Council, as you know, works on a committee system. So midway through the term, every 2 years, we do a reset. So we started December the 6th with a new warden, Chris White. He's from Guelph-Aramasa. Committee chairs, I moved up to Chair of Administration, Finance and Human Resources. Of course, your Mayor, Greg Davidson, retained Roads Committee. Jeff Duncan is on Economic Development. Doug Breen, new to the committee chair for Information, Heritage and Seniors. Dave Anderson, Joint Social Service and Land Ambulance. Now, that's something we changed last year. So we have 2 joint programs with the City of Guelph. One is the Land Ambulance, which they are responsible for. One is Social Services, which the county is responsible for. Historically, there was only one member, i.e. the mayor of Guelph, that sat on that committee. There was some concerns with that, so we changed the committee structure on that last year. We now have 4 people from the county sitting on it and 4 people from the city, and we've started alternating the chairs. So last year, the chair was David Anderson from the county. This year, the chair is a counselor from the City of Guelph, and I'm sorry, her name escapes me right at the moment. But the intent is to alternate that back and forth every 2 years, or sorry, every year. So Steve O'Neill from Arthur is the Solid Waste Chair. James Seeley from Push Lynch is the Planning Chair. And Andy Lennox was elected to the OPP Detachment Board. Now, the OPP elects their own chair on an annual basis. And that structure changed last year as well when the province rejigged it last April and changed it from the OPP board to an OPP Detachment Board, Wellington County. They changed the membership. So we used to have 2 people from the public, 2 from County Council, and 1 citizen appointment from County Council. We now only have 1 provincial appointee, which we're still waiting on. It's not quite a year. So we don't have the provincial appointee yet. So now it's 2 members of County Council, plus the warden, and 1 appointee. So County Council elects the person to report to County Council, but the board itself elects its own chair. So in this case, it was Andy Lennox. So at the January meeting, they elected Andy Lennox, former warden, to be the chair. And Alan Alls, our citizen appointee, is now the vice chair of that committee. So on the OPP, if you've been following any of the news, so basically when the bill came in for 2025 budgetary purposes, it was up 12.5%. Which was basically a $2 million hit, which round numbers was a 2% levy hit, okay? Province got a lot of pushback from a lot of municipalities because it wasn't just us, it was across the board, and it was directly tied to, the province came out 3 years ago, I'm going to say now, with a legislation that said if you're a civil servant, you get a 1% increase and a discussion. That got quashed in the courts. Of course, the OPP went back to negotiate, and rather significant wage increases over the course of 5 years, which directly impacted this budget. So the province gave us some relief. They gave us $3 million in total, $2 million for the 2025 budget and $1 million for the 2024 budget. So council said, what are we going to do with this relief? Do we take it and take the hit next year, which is going to be closer to 3%? So anyway, so they took that $2 million in relief and put it into a land ambulance reserve, because land ambulance is looking at repositioning and building new stations. So they said rather than take it off the levy and put it back on double fisted next year, let's take advantage of it this year and use it for something that's still supporting emergency services. Okay, so then joint social services, 65 Del High Street, which is transitional housing for 28 individuals, opened last week. supposed to be filled within a month. So obviously the need is there. Ambulance services for 2024 were over budget by $2.5 million. The county share of that was $947,000. That was attributed to staffing costs from employee leaves and backfill costs. So the city of Guelph again runs that program, so they're looking to address that this year. And the land ambulance capital reserve, again, that $2 million was put in principally for land purchases. So information, heritage, and seniors, they're looking at new children's space on the second floor of the museum on the west end. New pavilion is planned adjacent to the Indigenous Gardens, and the Erin Library, which is in the old grist mill, is supposed to be open this summer. So that's a rather significant project. Planning and Land Division, they dealt with the Mapleton request for the OPA, so I'm quite sure you guys are familiar with that. Roads. So Arthur Roads Garage, of course the expert's not here, Mr. Davidson chairs the committee. So Arthur Roads Garage opening was delayed due to geothermal issues, so they've now basically abandoned the geothermal. They're going to put in alternate heating and air conditioning because of the issues that were there. Automated speed enforcement, everybody's favorite topic, launched on the 15th of January. Reports are coming in. In the public report for this month, it was approximately 7% is what they're estimating, is the percentage of tickets that are being issued from the traffic volume. That's a preliminary report, but that's part of the public report for Thursday's meeting. In the January report, 4 bridge replacements on 109 just outside of Arthur heading towards Orangeville. That's a multi-year project that's supposed to start later this year and complete in 2027. So there's 4 bridges basically within 2.5 kilometers there that all need to be replaced. Wellington Road 8 and Wellington Road 9 roundabout. It's finally here. So that's supposed to be going in this year. And with that, Wellington Road 9 over to 109 is to be repaved. So that's part of the total project. So it's a new roundabout and then re-asphalt from 109 back over to County Road 8. So that's on the budget for this year. Wellington Road 11, the Flax Bridge right at the end of 11, is a $500,000 retrofit that should take us hopefully to 2035. 2035 capital budget has $4.5 million in it to replace that bridge. So you're going to do a retrofit first to extend the life and then do a replacement. Wellington Road 7, Bosworth, we just talked about that. Again, my understanding is they'll still need to be closed in the spring to finish up some work again. Wellington Road 7 and Wellington Road 11, the intersection. If you've gone through that and hit the light green heading to Arthur, there's a bit of a dip. So that intersection will be repaved this summer as well. Wellington Road 10, there's a $1 million culvert replacement. Wellington Road 11, there's a $110,000 culvert replacement. And Wellington Road 7, Rossay to Side Row 3 is in for resurfacing this year at a cost of $1.7 million. Solid waste services, we increased tipping fees to $145 a ton effective February 1st of this year. We also, as January 1st, did a $10 minimum site visit effective. And that's having the desired effect. It's slowing down the traffic to the transfer stations. It's not a popular thing. But the intent is we're already paying for those trucks to drive by the end of your driveway, and you're looking at one of the worst culprits. I haven't bought a yellow bag since COVID. So it was specifically geared at me, and it's working. I'm going much less frequently because it costs me $10 now instead of $2.50 or $5. But anyways, it's having the desired effect. Laura transfer station's in for upgrades to be completed this year. The Rossay transfer station is to be revisited, so both of those came in significantly over the original budgets. They decided to go ahead with the Laura, and they decided to revisit Rossay. So Rossay is going to be scaled back and designed like it originally had a scale and paving and sawtooths. And I'm not sure what the new scale is going to look like, so it doesn't mean that it's in danger of closing, but it's not going to get the same upgrade that Laura got, nor would it anyways, based on volume. Economic development, Ridewell was approved for continuation, so that was a provincial pilot that ends in the end of March, so a month from now. There's still some issues with that. Mapleton is not a big user of this program. Center Wellington gets the lion's share of the traffic. So, but it has been added as a permanent program for the time being while they try to rejig it. AFNHR, we approved the video live streaming of county council meetings, so that's in progress. Right now, we have microphones very similar to yours. By the end of May, I understand we're supposed to have the video system up and running, unless they run into any issues, but it's an integrated system, so you'll be able to watch us. So, and the other major thing in that grouping was continuum of care. So if you've ever seen the signs or been on the Aboyne campus, there was a significant project plan called the Continuum of Care, which would have been adjacent to the Wellington Place. I'm trying to think. No, Wellington Terrace, pardon me. And connected with the tunnel. Anyways, long story short, that's been going on for almost 6 years now. And the construction costs have just continued to escalate, and county council basically said, if we can make this revenue neutral, we're prepared to support it, and if we can't, we won't. And we couldn't get it to revenue neutral, not even close, so the decision was we had $6.5 million in reserves there. That got pulled. It's now into just a housing reserve. Now, for which project in which municipality, we don't know, but it's like, why tie up that money if it's never gonna go forward? Put it to housing somewhere else. So that decision was made. And then there's a couple pages of the budget highlights, and I really don't think you want me to get into those. But you guys all got a copy of this anyway. So with that, that would be my report. And if you got any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them for you.
Perfect, thank you, Councillor. Any questions at all for Councillor Campbell?
Thank you, through you, Councillor Martin. Just curious, the S-Bend roundabout, the 8 and 9, the cost of that and the repaving, is that being split, so is Perth paying half of that, or is this half and then Perth is also putting in 1.6 million for the entire
No, my
thing?
understanding is those are the total construction costs, and both the roundabout and the roadway will be shared by Perth County. So the total project's about 3.7 round numbers. Half of that will be the county's expense. The other half will be Perth County's expense.
Councillor Woodham, anybody? I just have one quick one for you. You mentioned the 7% number of the total volume for the automated speed enforcement stuff. Is that an expected percentage? Is that high? Like, what were you guys expecting?
Well, I don't know if we had expectations, but because of the volume of tickets and the outcry, if you will, for lack of a better choice of words, staff was asked to come up with some numbers. Excuse me, at the Roma convention, I spoke to one of the competitors, so not the people we're dealing with, but one of their competitors about, you know, how it was going. And of course, that was like 2 days after we'd started. So we'd had the first little rush of numbers, and it's like, geez, what's going on here, right? So through that conversation, they basically explained to me, and again, this was not the people we're dealing with, it was a competitor of theirs, that when you put one of these systems in, you get that high flush. And that basically, historically, in their experience, it drops between 30 and 40% after that honeymoon period, for lack of a better choice of words. So we didn't know what to expect, to be quite frank. You know, it's put in for road safety, that's the intent. And to me, if that 7% number is accurate, and again, it's in the public report for this Thursday's meeting, and it says it's preliminary numbers, so they're going to do some more work, and I'm quite sure we're going to put up some black cats, which give us some exact totals on actual traffic volumes. So I'm not sure where those numbers came from, but to me, if you're hitting at 7%, that kind of makes sense to me. It's not that 50% of the people driving through are getting a ticket, it's 7%. So, but I honestly can't answer your question to say whether that's high or low. To me, it sounds like you're comfortable, and I'm basing that off of the Black Cat reports that we get when we put those up. And basically, we look at the 85 percentile, right? So when you look at some of those stats, it makes sense to me. So, but I can't quantify it and say, yeah, it's 2% higher than it should be, or it's 3% lower than it should be. I don't have that kind of data, so.
Very good, thank you. If there's no other questions, we have a resolution here moved by Councillor Woodham, seconded by Ottens, obviously, that the Township of Mapleton Council receive for information the delegation of Earl Campbell, County Councilor, regarding the Wellington County Council updates and the Wellington County 2025 budget highlights. Any questions? Any more comments? All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you so much for your time, Earl.
Thank you, appreciate it.
All right, moving on to economic development. A year in review. Ms. Gross.
Good afternoon, Council. I am really excited to go through our year in review for economic development for 2024. Can you move on to our first slide? Or second slide, I guess. So our CIP this year, we gave out about $20,000 to 3 local businesses to help improve different things within their storefronts, signage. There was some work done at the Drayton Chop House. They put up a brand new big sign and some work on their patio corner crest. The Drayton Youth Center did a facelift out front. Mapleton Acres and Alamo did some work inside, upstairs, leading up to their nice meeting room that they have there. So every year, you guys have been committed to giving the $10,000 to our Mapleton, Minto Mapleton Health Recruitment, and that is a great initiative that we have continued. Social media, we had some gains both in Facebook and Instagram. The followers are there. Those are the total followers we have. And X or Twitter, we're really not seeing an uptake on that. It's very limited. There's some messaging still going out that way, but not as popular for sure as Facebook or Instagram is. As you are aware, we did our storefront map this year. It was a great interactive map that allowed people to go onto our website and see different places in our community that offer storefronts right at their farms. So that includes places like 3Gen, Tullamore, Northwind Biosin. There is plenty, and if anyone would like to be added to the list, they can reach out and let us know. We did our best to make sure that we included everyone that we are aware of. We ran some bingo challenges this year. It was a great way to showcase some of our businesses and to get people out. In the summer, we wanted them to visit our parks and our trails, our conservation area, all that fun stuff. And then, of course, we wanted to support small business during Christmas. The winners of our small bingo challenges were able to choose gift cards to some of our local businesses here in Mapleton. We had some grand openings to celebrate. We had 3 grand openings in Mapleton. So the first one was the Drayton Chop House, followed by, the next slide please, Sky Dome Transit Services, and the next slide are the neighborhood table. We also attended Sweet Rose Accounting last week, which was great to see. We were able to receive some funds from the County of Wellington for the Business Retention and Expansion Municipal Implementation Fund. We are using that for signage. There has been some signage for the town of Drayton that will be going in. So we're saving them, and they'll be installed after the Mapleton, or the Drayton, 150 celebration that is coming up in June, as all of their signage has already been attached to our current signs, and it would be nice to just keep the traditional signs up for that celebration. we are part of WOWSA, and we participated in an International Women's Day where we celebrated women in business. There was keynote speaker and panelists, as well as dinner and entertainment, all driven by female leaders within the communities that WOWSA encompasses. We also were part of a North Wellington Works Job Fair, which is also coming up again at Norwell District Secondary School. It's a great opportunity to explore local career opportunities, showcase co-op achievements from the high school, and connect with both those looking for careers all the way up from those having opportunities available. You can also get some assistance with developing your resume, your cover letter, those types of things at this event as well. We did Explore Your Future. This was for younger grade 8s. So we had lots of networking opportunities, panelist discussions for them, community building, and lots of ways to explore their career pathways. So whether more so getting them starting to think about what they want to do going into high school, what avenue, post-secondary education, and that there's lots of different pathways and opportunities out there. They really wanted to stress that you can go away, go to school, explore all these different pathways, but you can come back. We have lots of opportunities here in our small communities for you as well, especially as we grow and develop. Thank you. And this was an event for our employers that was held in Wellington North, which we were part of along with Minto. And it was the first year we've ever done this. It was speed networking, where they had the opportunity to work with programs, recruiters, resources, all those types of things for employers this time as opposed to people looking for employment. We are hoping to host this in Mapleton this year. Here are some of the photo contest winners from this past year. Our photo contests, again, win gift cards to our local businesses within Mapleton, and it also gives us a great opportunity to revamp some of our photos so that we can always be putting some fresh new faces out there in our media and on our printed flyers and things that go out. We had our Canada Day celebration. It was a great success. We were really happy with what we saw and all the partnerships that happened that day to make it happen. Next slide. And along with Canada Day, we ran a door decorating contest, which was fun. It was just to get the spirit out there, and it was both for businesses and residents. We had our 4 farmers markets plus the Mapleton market that happened down at Canada Day, and we're looking forward to revamping the farmers market again this year, although we do have some new regulations coming down the pipeline, so we are going to work really hard to make sure that we fit within those regulations and that the market continues. And of course, we celebrated Maple's 25th at one of our farmers markets last year. We hosted a newcomers reception at the PMD Arena. It's a great opportunity for anyone new to the community to come and see what we have to offer here. We had a great turnout of vendors and community groups and services that were there to support the event. And we're looking forward to revamping how we've traditionally done the event this year and come up with some new fresh ideas and way to entice new people to the community to come on out. Our farmers market box, so Mapleton's farmers market box sold out the fastest and might have been the only sellout actually. Don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure it was one of the only ones, which was fantastic to see. Our farmers market boxes supported many of our local vendors that participate in our market, so we were really excited to see that. And we also we're part of the county-wide holiday boxes, so each market provided a few things from their markets to make up the holiday boxes, and overall 120 boxes were sold throughout the county. So if you ever check the community news, every other week we take up the full page of the back of the community news in partnership with Minto and Wellington North to get all of our activities and events that are happening. We do a culture page as well one week, and then the following is geared towards economic development. We had our culture days for 2024. They were a great success, but we do feel that we can expand this going into 2025. Culture days runs for a long time. It's about a 3-week period, I believe, and so we are looking to grow this program for 2025. And then, of course, we had our Shop Local Christmas campaign in support of all of our local businesses right here in Mapleton. And we ended off the year with a wreath workshop at our PMD Arena. And don't forget to save the date for Drayton's 150th anniversary celebration. You'll probably continue to see this throughout the year. So we're very excited to be part of that event. And the committee is very active and working hard and bringing everything together. Any questions or comments? Thank you. Oh, sorry.
Oh, that's good. Any questions at all from council?
Thank you.
Sounds like you had a busy year.
It was a great year.
Yeah.
It was very busy, but wonderful.
I've got a really quick question.
Sure.
It may not be fair. I don't know, it might even be more of a Manny question. So when you were talking about social media, you kind of referenced that the Twitter X thing, there hasn't been a lot of uptake. Is there any, due to our geopolitical place that we're in, is there any, review of that? I know I dropped off it yesterday, actually, just because I wasn't on it much anyway. But is there any, I know the city of Cambridge just, I think that was out in the paper within the last few days that they've dropped off that platform too. What are your thoughts on something like that, or is that a bigger conversation?
Yeah, so through you, Councillor Martin, it is definitely something that is on our radar to be bringing forward to some senior staff. We have quickly had some conversations about it. It's not a platform that we're utilizing as frequently. It's also not one that we find we get a ton of interaction on anyways. But currently we're really just using it to get out a few key messaging, but the other two are definitely our more sought after, but yes.
Okay, on that note, I have a motion here from Councillor Otten, seconded by Councillor Woodham, that the Township of Mapleton Council receive for information report ED 2025-01, Economic Development Year in Review. All those in favor? That's carried. Next, we're going to talk about our 2024 Roads Needs Studies. Roads Needs Study. And one of our assets here in Mapleton is Ms. Baines, so over to you.
Good afternoon, Council. And it's hard to make a report fun after Amy's report, but I shall try my best. The Township of Mapleton retained GM Blue Plan Engineering, and that's GEI now, to conduct a road needs study assessing the condition of one of the most, if not the most critical infrastructure of our township. That's the hardtop roads, asphalt and surface treated. This is a critical element of our broader asset management program, and it also helps to do it as an input for our long-term financial capital planning as well. And this report provides an overview of the study's key findings as well as its implications for our road infrastructure. So just some key highlights are that we maintain about 210 kilometers of hardtop roads. And overall, our condition of the PCI, which is called Pavement Condition Index, is fair. That's a PCI of 63. However, about 30% of these roads, which is 64 kilometers in length roughly, are classified as being in poor or very poor condition, meaning that they will require attention in the coming years. The total replacement cost is at about $248 million, and the study has identified about $38.4 million in current improvement needs. We used a priority ranking system to ensure that roads in the worst condition and with the highest traffic count are addressed first, while also taking into account that we are taking the lowest mobilization cost and also considering other cost efficiency factors when we do our long-term capital planning. As you would notice, this is a 2024 road needs study that's being presented in 2025, and the reason for it being a little delayed, we would like to highlight we did a lot of improvements to our asset management program and cost estimates as well. We have like updated our GIS mapping and inventory, and like right now we have all the pictures of our hard top assets linked to its location. We've also moved away from our standard provincial cost estimates and used better pricing that reflects the actual local contractor cost rather than going with standard MTO pricing. This ensures that there is more accurate budgeting and planning. And we also aimed to capture all the details as accurately as we could. But we'd also like to highlight that this is the snapshot of our current asset conditions and infrastructure, and something that needs to be revisited every 4 years as per our budget. And with the help of collaboration of Public Works and Finance staff, we also try to make sure that we update this every year, every time we do any repaving, which is the road repavement, and as well as any patching, to ensure that like we are accurately reflecting the current condition of the assets. And Jamie, Patrick, and I are here to answer any questions you may have for this report. So thank you, that's all.
Okay, thank you very much for a boring report. I always find this roads needs study fascinating, right? Because it's interesting, you know, what the condition of our roads are kind of spread across the township, and you can kind of see the cycle of, you know, when the roads have been done last and how we kind of move through. So it's always interesting. Any questions for Ms. Baines at all from council? I figure that out. Yeah. Okay. If there's no questions, I'll read the motion here that moved by Councillor Woodham, seconded by Councillor Ottens, that the Township of Mapleton Council receive for information report FIN 2025-08 regarding the 2024 road needs study, and that council adopts the 2024 road needs study as presented. Comments on that? All right, all those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. All right, moving on to the fire department. I guess before I introduce the motion, just because we don't have any reps here from the fire services management team, and we're also missing a couple members of council, is there any concerns or questions that you would have about this report? It is just receiving it for information around what council's responsibilities or role is in setting the level of service. If there'd be pieces of this report based on your preliminary review that you'd like to, you know, push by the fire chief, we can always postpone this until another meeting. But if it's clear, we can push forward too. So.
Through
Councillor
you,
Ottens?
yes, through you, Councillor. I just wonder if maybe we should just defer this so that we can have maybe a little more discussion with the other councillors here. It is a very important piece. I think there's some aspects here that have come up, you know, just in public discussion that maybe we should address. So I wonder if we should do that when we have some fire representatives here and the rest of council as well.
Yes, I would support that also.
Okay. Mr. Clerk, can I, as the chair, just do that, or do you need a resolution to defer?
Please, just a motion to postpone would be great.
Okay. Defer or postpone? Postpone?
Sure.
Is there a difference? Do you need a motion?
Sure. Who would like to move that? Boom and boom. Okay, let's. Postponed. All those in favor of postponing? Thank you. Sorry. So just coming back at another meeting, Mr. Clerk, that'll be fine. Okay. All right, moving on to the Planning Department, 2024 Annual Report. Ms. Brown.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. So I feel like we're on a downward spiral here if we're going to go with, you know, the beauty that I'm bringing to the planning report. I did manage to put big green squares in there and a few little icons just to liven it up for you. We're actually down a few planning applications, although I don't see that as a bad thing by any stretch of the imagination, because again, I would say most of our time is spent doing our best to work with the people that come forward with, tell us exactly what you want. We'll do our best to try and figure out how we can make it work. So last year we were, the year prior, we had 70 applications total, so we have 64. Otherwise, really, it's just telling you the numbers of all of our different applications. As far as highlights go, there's lots of things that I think we should be really proud about, and that's our official plan amendment, getting at least the largest portion, made it through an official plan amendment 120, which brought in the residential portion in Drayton, as well as a section to be able to expand the industrial park area. And although it won't show up until 2025 year-end review, as we heard from Mr. Earl Campbell, that the remainder of that parcel should hopefully be going through in official plan 123, which doesn't look like much when it's a bullet point, but it is months of work, and all of that in conjunction with the many, many changes that the province had brought forward in trying to keep under. The other piece that I think needs to be highlighted is the fact that there's things that we are used to in our former practice with the building department having and being the zoning administration. That now sits with me, so if there's technically, I guess that makes me the zoning administrator. So although building, when they do their reviews, that's normally how we do get a lot of applications still that come forward. But when something is in question, then planning has the final delegated authority on that, as well as bylaw used to sit in the building department, and that now sits under the planning department. I would say those are the biggest changes so far.
Any questions at all for council on this report? Councilor Rottens? No. Oh, no, okay. Your light's just on for fun, or just trying to wake me out. I just have one quick one, and Ms. Brown, you're very good at bearing sarcasm in your reports at times. It looks to me like perhaps you're struggling with the current platform. Going digital is obviously always a good thing, but the current platform, are there challenges you can speak freely about, or is that more of an offline conversation?
Thank you, Councillor Martin, for always making things more interesting than I was anticipating. No, it's a very honest statement. I don't think that there's any big surprises. The platform that we're using works incredibly well for bylaw, for building, and there are many aspects of it that I really do enjoy, but planning is a very different animal, and as well as with all of the different changes that, have taken place, the system itself doesn't quite do exactly everything we need it to do, and then of course the learning curve. We did go completely live. All of our applications are done through that platform, but there's enough in there that I'm not interested in doubling somebody's work while we're working through the kinks, and it just seems like we're not necessarily getting the return on investment that we're putting in. So we'll be having another discussion to see when we can bring that up to the level that we need it to be, or we'll do a workaround, because I'm also not interested in giving up on the system, because if it worked the way that it is meant to, then I think it will be brilliant, and the platform speaks with all the other modules, so they're all connected, and that has its advantages and disadvantages to it. There in the future could potentially have some sort of a financial piece associated with that, but for now it'll be status quo. But sorry, I am somewhat remiss that given the timeline, and I was one of those lovely, lucky people who was stuck in Montreal for 2 days trying to figure out a way to get home, and the reports were also due. So unfortunately, Patrick was not able to put his financial piece in there. So I don't know if you have any financial questions. Patrick can certainly answer them for you.
I thought there was going to be a good story in there that you had an epiphany in Montreal and, no? So is it fair to say that your statement about several applicants enjoy not having to come to the office, that there's also several applicants that perhaps don't enjoy the digital side, that perhaps they still need to come in because of the technical nature of the application, that they still need to come into the office? Are we still offering that, like, you can come in here and do it electronically, I guess, which kind of, is that what you're talking about, doubling up on the work?
Thank you again, Councillor Martin. I would say that most people are busy, and most people, we're open the same hours of operation that they also need to be at the office, right? So I think there's a lot of advantages. That way, we're all about customer service, and I have never held up an application because of payment, but the application's ability now to be able to take payments online has certainly helped out a lot for a good number of individuals. But it's always been, as long as you have it to me by this day, we have a mail slot that's open 24/7, whatever suits them best. Now, again, we also have a segment of our population that technology is not necessarily their friend, but I would say that's becoming fewer and fewer because a lot of times they have access to other people who do their application submissions for them. But yes, the duplication is when somebody still comes in, because absolutely, we don't refuse anybody. They bring in the paper, and then yes, that means somebody else has to enter it. And how does that get circulated? And we don't fill out applications for other people, because you just can't. That's not good business. So that does present a challenge, but that will always be a challenge. But it is becoming minimal.
Through you, Councillor Martin. So I think your first question to Michelle, I think Michelle was maybe being a little bit polite. As we all have experienced through the province in the last couple of years, the various and quick planning changes that continue to happen over and over again, not only pose a challenge for planning staff where they had to change the way they do business and adapt quickly to those changes, but the platform wasn't being updated as well to the changes the province mandated downwards. So I know Michelle mentioned there's a few hiccups, but it and correct me if I'm wrong, it was a huge challenge to not just for us internally to adapt, well, not us, the planning department to adapt internally, but also Cloud Permit wasn't adapting either. And not updating the platform, which made it even more difficult for us to use that platform. So that was a big one.
Yeah, thank you. Good point as well. Thank you for obliging me. Any other questions from council on this report? All right, so moved by Councillor Woodham, seconded by Councillor Ottens. The Township of Mapleton Council received for information planning report 2025-02 regarding the 2024 annual report. All those in favor? That's carried. Next up is the planning report 2025-03, part lot control of the Adam Brown Street. Planner Brown?
Thank you again, Councillor Martin. So we can go years without ever seeing a part lot control, and we had one last council and now again this council. The premise is always the same. There's been a public meeting. The intent, there was, for this one in particular, we had a zoning meeting because the configuration of the lot, there's a lot going on that couldn't meet for the size and everything that we were putting on there, but it is built. It has been successful, and in fact, even the Public Works Department had a huge hand in this one because of servicing, but they're ready to go. So really, we just need the first part of the part lot control application piece approved here through council, and then the package will continue and go on to the county for final approval.
Thank you. Any questions? Resolution here moved by Councillor Otten, seconded by Councillor Woodham, that the Township of Mapleton Council receive for information planning report PL 2025-03 regarding part law control for Adam Brown Street, and that council consider the attached draft bylaw for adoption, and further that council directs the planning and development manager to complete and to submit the application to the County of Wellington for final approval. All those in favor of the motion? And that's carried. All right, moving on to Public Works. Director Morgan.
Thank you, Councillor Martin and Council. So strategically planned through the CAO, we brought you the road needs study, which gives you all the road classifications along with the maintenance standards for the province of Ontario. I do apologize, there's a couple of typos in there, but the recommendation is correct with the 36618. So it all started out in 2002 when they brought these standards for the province into effect, and then there was a lot of things like sidewalks and that needed to be added after, and a few verbiage changes and that. So in 2018, they actually went out for comments from a lot of the roads associations to put some comments in there. So in 2018, they revised this, adding sidewalks and that. So the regulations actually cover everything: potholes, signs, street lights, and everything. So there's a lot of really good reading in there for council. And being the winter we just had, this is probably a good document that you could fall back on our response times and what we need to do for our sidewalks and our roads and that. We do run in Public Works 2 shifts. We run a 4:30 till 12:30 shift, and then a 12 o'clock to 9 o'clock shift in there. I think that's the right math. So we do meet these standards, no problem at all, running those 2 shifts. We have the greatest staff and the greatest equipment to be able to do this work. So yeah, so if there's any questions, I can answer. A lot of fine things in there. You got to read it a few times. I've been reading it for probably 15 years, and I find something new every time I read it. So if there's any questions, just, yeah, fire away, and I can answer them for you.
Yeah, like that section 2, bullet 3, subsection A. Like, yeah, it's riveting read. Any questions at all from council on this report? I would assume, I mean, considering the winter that we've had, and that the regs address the plowing of roads, I've heard a lot of really positive feedback from our residents, because everyone understands that we haven't had a winter like this. I would hope that the feedback that your department's receiving is mostly positive. Is that fair to assume?
Yeah, to you, Councillor Martin, we do actually get a lot of compliments, more than anywhere else I've ever worked. We do get the odd negative one, but sometimes I can say that it's a different level of government that's looking after those roads. We honestly do not get a lot of complaints, and I'm quite proud of the guys for that, the staff.
Yeah, I know, like the subdivisions are the ones that you see the crazy high snow banks with not a lot of frontage to move the snow around. Like, I don't know how people do it. We're lucky in Moorfield that our road fronts on the county road, and you guys come through every couple days to remove those banks, but not everybody has that same luxury when they're in a subdivision. So, okay, any other questions at all for? All right, so this resolution is moved by Councillor Woodham, seconded by Councillor Ottens, that the Township of Mapleton Council receive for information PW 2025-01 regarding the minimum maintenance standards and the regs. Any other comments on that? All those in favor of receiving this report? That's carried. Thank you. Almost missed it. Recreation Department. I was already looking at bylaws. Amy, please.
Thank you. Through you, Councillor Martin, I'm very excited tonight to bring a quick recreation report from what we accomplished in 2024. I'd like to say that this is a very dedicated team of staff that we have working in our recreation department, including staff in our before and after school program and our students that help us out. It is a great, wonderful team. So we've been busy this year. We just had our very snowy Family Day event for 2025, but 2024 was the first year we saw this event happen. It was a great day. It was very successful, attended by a large amount of people. We were allowed to have s'mores with the fire department last year. Sadly, this year, we had to revamp and make s'mores in the oven, and the kids were still excited to get them from the fire department. So it still went well for this year. We definitely saw a reduction in numbers due to the weather, but we're excited to see what it looks like again in 2025. So we held some Valentine's Day events and youth dances for littles and bigs. It was lots of fun. Palentines for our younger kids, grades 2 and 3, and then our Valentine's Day Carnival, we called it, for our youth dance last year. And it was lots of fun decorations for Carnival. Recreational pickleball is still happening at the PMD Arena, 3 mornings and 1 evening a week. This past year, we were really excited to introduce our Lunch Legends program at our summer camp program. We were so grateful to our sponsors that sponsored lunches, not just 1 day a week, but for every day, all summer long. It was fantastic, and our families greatly appreciated it. We are bringing this forward again for 2025, and we're adding Popsicle Pals too, so if you're interested. They love frozen treats at summer camp, and we're happy to have you. Here's some pictures. We hosted over 220 campers. We've opened registration for this year, and our numbers are already looking slightly higher at this time compared to where they were last year, so fingers crossed we'll see even more campers for 2025. Staff are busy already planning for summer camp, and most of the weeks have already been set for what's happening. We're working on special guests and all that fun stuff. We obviously had Canada Day, which you did see in our previous report. Both Rec and Economic Development work hard to make this day come to fruition, along with our community partners. And I should say Public Works really helps make a lot of these events happen within our community, both on the Rec side and Economic Development as well. We did do our picnic table project again this year with Community Christian School and Maryborough Public School. So you will see those tables. Last year they were put out at Centennial Park and Maryborough in Moorfield. That is where their tables were sent. We did some line dancing lessons and ran 2 sessions of line dancing. It is incredible the amount of people that enjoy line dancing. I'm not sure that I've seen the hall that full for a recreation program, and line dancing was definitely it. Here's our before and after school program, some of our friends having fun outside. It is still a very popular program. The kindergarten program that we opened this year for the after school program is doing wonderfully. We are going to be opening enrollment for next year shortly. We're just looking at how many spaces we will actually be able to open for next year. We obviously offer PD Day camps. There we are having fun. Public ice skate times. So we also were lucky to have all of our ice over the holiday season sponsored this year. So again, thank you so much to all of those sponsors out there. They really do make a difference for the community. Here's some pictures of our youth dances. We thought it'd be fun to share some with you so you can see all the fun they're having. We play games, they win prizes, and we do lots of different activities with them while we have them. The big thing for that is there is a no cell phone policy, so parents do really appreciate that. We do a junior games night, so we held a few of those throughout the year where we played games and cards, and the kids just got to hang out and basically eat chips and drink pop and have some fun. And Recreation attended the Moorfield Drags this year, and we just had a booth there and offered some activities for the kids. Empower Her Day was a great success. We really brought in some strong leaders and entrepreneurs, all female, as well as some of our female counselors attended the event. We had a great day empowering the girls. We did have a lot of interest in offering the same style event for younger girls, so you're going to see an Empower Her Junior Day happen at the end of March for girls that are ages 9 to 12, and then we will pick it up again later in the year and redo Empower Her for the older girls. So female counselors, hopefully you'll be getting an email and hopefully you'll be available to join us. So we think showcasing Mapleton is important. So the last few years, we have made sure that we are out there and that people know what's happening. So in 2022, we attended Conestoga College and completed a presentation to the Recreation and Leisure class. It was really a presentation on what recreation looks like in rural communities, because what happens here isn't necessarily what happens next door, and it's definitely not what's happening in Toronto. So it was really good for them to just get to see what happens here and what opportunities they could have as graduates. In 2023, we were facilitators at the Reflective Learning Institute with the County of Wellington. It was a great opportunity for us to assist them with their, obviously their large event that happened that day for all early childhood educators or anyone that works with younger youth and children in care. And then in 2024, as you are aware, we spoke at the Pro Expedition about authorized recreational before and after school programming and how we make it happen here in our rural communities and how we use it to close the gap in childcare. So it was a great success. We've had several small municipalities reach out to us, and we've been able to assist them in sort of getting started or answer questions on how it works and where they can go with it. This was our Santa Claus Parade in Drayton. We have no problem filling the parade float in Drayton. The kids from program love to ride on the float. I was getting a little worried that we were going to have too many, but we fit everybody on and it was a great success. And of course, we tried to step in for the big guy in red when Canada Post was on strike, and we were able to get out well over 100 cards backed from Santa to the kids. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that report. Any questions or comments at all from council?
Thank you, through you, Councillor Martin. I just want to, like, the one part where you're speaking at different conventions or whatever, I think that's fantastic for Mapleton. Like, we're not looking to other municipalities and following them now. We've become a leader and we're setting the example now, and people are learning from us, and I think that's fabulous.
Thank you.
You know, what's funny about those, the ice time during the Christmas holidays being sponsored, my boys were still I didn't find out until after the fact that it was sponsored, so I was still sending toonies and loonies. They weren't coming home, so I don't know if you had the food booth open for, yeah, I'll double check next time, but thank you for this report. We have a resolution moved by Councillor Otten, seconded by Councillor Woodham, that the Township of Mapleton Council receive for information Rec 2025-01 entitled The Recreation Department Year in Review. All those in favor of receiving this report? That's carried. Bylaws. Moved by Councillor Woodham, seconded by Councillor Otten, that bylaws numbered 2025-013 being a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw 2010-080 being a zoning bylaw for the Township of Mapleton, and 2025-014 being a bylaw to remove part law control from part of lots 5 and 6, Plan 61R-22930, Adam Brown Street, Moorfield, be hereby read a first, second, and third time and finally passed this 25th day of February 2025. It's finally, like, we've been on this for a while, or it feels like it's a, finally, yeah. Any comments or questions around these two bylaws? All those in favor of receiving? That's carried. I should have asked if you wanted them separated out, but, okay. That's my bad. Do you want me to go back and do it, redo it? Okay. That's carried. Correspondence for council's information. Mayor Davidson's report echoes a lot of what Councillor Campbell provided. Any other comments on either one of these two? Please.
Thank you, through you, Councillor Martin. I just wanted to say thank you both to our mayor and our county council for doing these updates for us. It's, I think, good to see, and it keeps all of us informed. And now that the meetings will be live, we can even keep informed better.
Yeah, agreed. I really enjoy them too, so. Any notices of motion tonight? Other business? All right, moving on to the confirmatory bylaw. Thank you for, Martin, for attending today, and the rest of the staff who've put your time and energy into this meeting with your reports and comments. This resolution is moved by Councillor Otten, seconded by Councillor Woodham. That bylaw 2025-014 being a bylaw to confirm all actions and proceedings of the council of the corporation of the township of Mapleton be hereby read a first, second, third time, signed by the clerk, by the mayor and the clerk, and sealed with the corporate seal. All those in favor? That's carried. Adjourned.